Hey, good morning, girl. It's actually not morning, it's late in the evening. And it is what day is it? The 16th? 16th? Yeah, the 16th of December, 2018. Good to see ya. Man, just got back from the gym, working out hard this Sunday evening. And wow, that was sure a nice workout. Um, Basically I biked only about 13 miles or so, so it's really not a big deal. I also did some ab work on the captain's chair, and let's see what I can do to get those a six pack of abs, right? It's uh, not as easy as it would appear to get a six pack, although it probably doesn't appear that easy. So yesterday I went to Universal Studios Los Angeles, Universal Studios Hollywood, and I visited that theme park, and I really had a fabulous time. Real enjoyable, and I had a really great time. Um, the main reason I went was to go see the Wizarding World of Harry Potter events and rides and everything associated with that, because I've been enthusiastic about Harry Potter now for a couple months now. And in fact, I'm about to start the fourth book, The Goblet of Fire, by J.K. Rowling of the Harry Potter series. I've already finished the last audiobook, Chamber of Secrets, I think it was. Was it the Chamber of Secrets? No, it wasn't. That's the second one. The The Prisoner of Azkaban. Yeah, finished that one. That was the third year. And now, one of the things I thought I was going to do is I was going to buy a robe, a Harry Potter robe. And I ended up not buying a Harry Potter robe, although there were plenty there. And I was inclined to buy one. One thing I noticed was that the Harry Potter robes were generally designed so that they represented a house, a Hogwarts house. You know, Gryffindor, Hufflepuff, Ravenwood, and Slytherin. And at first I was thinking that I would just buy a Gryffindor house robe. But then I really got to thinking that I really wasn't sure whether I was sorted into the Gryffindor house. So, and then I started thinking a little bit about what it meant to be a part of each house. And I wanted to get it right. I wanted to get the right robe. So I didn't buy the robe. I didn't think that I knew truly what house I was part of. I think, believe it or not, I was thinking that I might be a Hufflepuff and not a Gryffindor house. You see, the main sort of moniker or key word for Gryffindor is courage, right? And while I have a lot of courage, I think that in many areas, it's not necessarily my strongest point. I think my strongest point might be loyalty. And that's the Hufflepuff house. And then, so, it got me thinking. I may not be Ravenwood because ravens, they are, I think wisdom is their moniker. And for Slytherin, it's shrewdness. I'm definitely not shrewd. So I'm definitely not going to be in Slytherin, that's for sure. But it was a kind of a toss-up between Hufflepuff and Gryffindor for me. And so I figured it wouldn't hurt for me to wait a little bit before I actually purchased the robe. I wonder if there's some kind of personality test that people can take so that they can get sorted into the house that makes sense for them. I'll have to search on the internet to see if there's anything going. There might be, what is it, Pottermore? Something on the Pottermore.com website. So I'll have to check that out and see what's going on. And I might have to talk to other Potterheads, that is, other Harry Potter fans, to get an idea of what house I might be sorted into. Anyway, beside that, I had a fantastic time. I did get a chance to sample the butter beer, which I'm a fan of. It is really good. It is essentially a combination of cream soda and butterscotch. And that makes for a really great drink. In fact, I had the frozen drinks. It turns out there are 3 kinds of butter beers that are available. The first kind is a frozen. The second one is like a soda drink. And then the third kind is a heated drink, a hot drink. And believe it or not, I only sampled one of the 3. I didn't sample all 3. That's a lot to sample, let me tell you. I was eating well on my vacation, and while I was at the park, and so I was full. I had plenty. Let me tell you, I had all kinds of treats, and I was enjoying myself thoroughly, partaking in the food that's available there. And there's quite a lot of interesting food available. There are huge donuts the size of, I don't know, the size of sandwiches, big sandwiches, not small sandwiches. I guess that doesn't make a lot of sense because sandwiches are not that small, are not that big. But these donuts were huge, basically the largest donuts I've ever seen. And there were cupcakes that were well decorated and really enjoyable to look at. All kinds of neat stuff, all kinds of great sandwiches and burgers, and there was even some nachos, which I think I'm going to get next time. There's always, what I like about these amusement parks is that they generally take food seriously, and I'm glad that they do, because you're kind of stuck in the amusement park eating the food that they have prepared for you or available for you to buy. Now, that's not necessarily the case for Universal Studios in particular, I guess, because right outside Universal Studios is a mall, and you can exit Universal Studios if you choose at any time you want, so long as you get a hand stamp so that you can do a re-entry. So that's pretty nifty. So you could, in the mall, and that's what I'm implicating here, the implication is that you can go to the mall and you can get food to eat at the restaurants at the mall. I might just do that next time or not. I'm not sure what I'm going to do. The parking lot, where I parked was kind of far away. I was thinking about possibly bringing a lunch and a dinner, some kind of bagged lunch or dinner. That could be really helpful when it comes to getting some nutrition of the kind that I desire. But they had really a lot of vegan options there. At the park, they had vegan hamburgers. They had a vegan wrap that I had. I had both a vegan hamburger and a vegan wrap. And there are other things that I can get, like French fries and things like that. And so there were not without options, and I was really glad for that. And it was really nice to see that they had fruit there, containers of pineapple and blueberries and other containers. So there was plenty of food to drink, plenty of food to eat too. So I'm glad for it. And I did have a good time. I'm really enjoying this interest that I've got lately in going to amusement parks. The week before, I had gone to Disneyland, And this week, I actually intend to go to Six Flags Magic Mountain. I'm totally serious. So that'll mean 3 weeks, 3 amusement parks in 3 weeks. So that's rocking. I'm really enjoying amusement parks right now. In fact, one of the parts of amusement parks that I'm enjoying a lot right now are roller coasters. I'm really getting into roller coasters. For some reason, I don't know what it is about roller coasters and swings, by the way, but throwing your body around in space along with all those G forces, there's something about it that puts you in your body. And for me, it stimulates a pleasure center. I don't know what it is, but it's exciting and enjoyable and interesting to get thrown around a little bit by a roller coaster, to take the G's and to so, I don't know. I just had a really good time, and let me tell you, roller coasters are a great way to do it. And you know, one thing I'm noticing too is that the technology is changing when it comes to roller coasters in amusement parks. Like in the past, it's always been this metal track that these cars roll on. It's like a train, right? That's an old-fashioned roller coaster. The roller coasters that they've got today, really different. It's almost as if you're at the end of some robotic arm, and the robotic arm moves you from movie screen to movie screen, right? So imagine an auditorium where there's lots of different movie screens, and like there's some very high, very low, some at angles, some around corners, and basically you're sitting in this chair, which is represented by my hand, and there's this armature around with multiple joints, and the armature is moving you from television screen to television screen to television screen, and it has an effect that is really enjoyable. You can tell a story while you're in the midst of a roller coaster that is a lot more effective than just rolling on a track in a carriage. Yeah, and in fact, what I noticed was that there was a lot of energy going into these robotic arms that were moving you from screen to screen, and less energy from, say, a park management standpoint going into people on trains rolling on tracks. On the old-fashioned roller coasters. The old-fashioned roller coasters, those roller coasters I was finding them very short. They were on the order of minutes long, like 1 minute long, maybe a minute and a half long for the whole roller coaster. That's the conventional old-fashioned style of roller coaster. These new roller coasters, there was a Harry Potter roller coaster. This is the one that you sit in that chair that's moved around by the armature from screen to screen. Those were amazing. There was one at the Harry Potter castle, and then there was one, it was the Transformers in 3D. And by the way, I loved both of those rides. They were really stimulating. I think my favorite ride, believe it or not, I think my favorite ride was the Transformers ride. Transformers 3D. And I don't know, there was just something about it that was, and I'm not even enamored with the Transformers story. I mean, when I was a kid, I did have Transformers robot toys. I had Optimus Prime and what is the antagonist name? His name is like Magnum or something. Magnetron. I had Optimus Prime and Magnetron and some others. There were some jet airplanes that I had. And, there's even a new Transformers movie coming out that features Beetle, something about Bumblebee, who's this VW Bumblebee or something. VW Bug, maybe that's it. I'm not sure what kind of car Bumblebee is, which just goes to show you how out of touch I am with modern pop culture. But you know what? Just because of that ride, I might go ahead and see the Transformers movie. Why not? The Bumblebee movie. It might get me a little, give me a little more knowledge into that franchise, so I can talk to it with people who are of the younger generation, right? So, yeah, I had a really good time at Universal Studios. Um, I loved Harry Potter's Wizarding World. They put a lot of energy into that site, and I enjoyed every minute of it. I enjoyed the entryway arch to Hogsmeade, and I enjoyed seeing the train replica that transported all the characters from the Muggle world to uh, Hogwarts Castle. And I also got to visit pretty much all of the shops that they had replicated there. The shops where people sold wands, or they sold candy, or they sold toys and gadgets and stuff like that. Loved it all. I was really impressed with how they pulled it together. And I love the variety of all of the trinkets and novelties that people were buying. I thought some of them were very high quality. The scarves seemed to be very high quality, and those were objects that I would have bought myself. And the ties seemed to be somewhat high quality, and so I was glad to see that. It's an important franchise, and I'm glad that they're putting energy into it to make it flourish and develop, and to help people imagine themselves in that world. You know, some gifts were pretty interesting. Like I didn't necessarily anticipate that they would be selling stuffed owl dolls, but they do, and they all look pretty nice. And another thing they were selling were, I guess, feather pens and parchment paper. Again, I wouldn't necessarily have thought that that would be something to sell, but definitely is. They also had notebooks of various kinds. In fact, they debated whether I ought to get you some kind of trinket or toy or souvenir from the stores. But, during our texting conversation, you said that you'd prefer not to have anything. And I respect that choice. I had a really good time. I did go on the flight of the flight of the trying to remember what the Hippogriff, the flight of the Hippogriff roller coaster. I did that. They also had snowfall around the castle, around Hogwarts, and in fact, really around Hogsmeade. And I love that too. All kinds of great novelties and interesting areas to visit. They had food there that was unique, a restaurant, and I don't know. I loved it. I really had a good time there. In fact, when I went to Universal Studios, Hogsmeade was the first place that I visited, and I really did stay there for a couple hours, maybe 3 hours, 3.5. Maybe I might have even been there for 4 hours before I left, and that was just the first time, because I did return back to Hogsmeade. I'd say around 5:30, 6 o'clock, after having taken a break there. I guess I had dinner at a different place, and it was pretty neat. I got to walk around and see other parts of the park, parts that were devoted to things like the Minion cartoon. Believe me, I really don't have much of a concept of what the Minions are, I need to watch that movie too. And of course, there was the Simpsons part of the park, and I liked seeing that stuff again too. One thing that was interesting about that park is that they sell alcohol there. So Moe's Bar from The Simpsons was there, and it was a full-fledged bar inside that building. And that was kind of neat. I've been watching The Simpsons for a really, really long time. It's kind of an old cartoon that's been around for a long time, at least by your standards. And so it was neat to be reminded about some of the aspects of that cartoon, Homer Simpson and Maggie and others. Yeah. And I don't know. I really had a good time. I spent a good 12 hours there. Just, I don't know, doing my thing, right? It wasn't now that I think about it, it wasn't a full 2 hours. But after I finished with the amusement park, then I went and hung out at the mall nearby. And I got some food at the restaurants, and they had like a dance party going on. And I looked at some of the stores that were there, and I did some Christmas shopping, and it was nice. It was definitely a very unique mall. I don't think I've seen a mall of that kind before. It was seemed to be a nice outdoor mall, and I really liked how it appeared that the stores took that venue seriously. They were putting up really interesting artistic signs. The signs, by the way, are large. And then I also got to know about this iFly venue. iFly is a company that allows you to fly in sort of like this column of air using a flight suit. I think I'm going to do that next time I go. So I think that'll be fun to sort of fly in that vacuum chamber, or not a vacuum chamber, but fly in the air chamber. So I've got plans about what I'm going to do the next time I visit Universal Studios. So that's definitely not the last time that I'll be attending. I'll be attending again and again all year round. So should be fun. Yeah. And there were also some rides that I did not get on that I'll be getting on next time. So looking forward to that. And I'm going to do some research about the Jurassic Park ride. I guess it wasn't running or something like that. I think it might be a roller coaster, but I wasn't sure. So there's still some things to explore and enjoy the next time I go. In fact, right now I'm actually kind of focused on what I'm going to be doing this coming weekend, which is going to Magic Mountain. And that is something that is fascinating me right now. I'll probably buy my ticket tonight to go to Magic Mountain. And my goal going to Magic Mountain is going to be to ride the biggest, baddest, scariest roller coasters ever. I've got the bug, man. I've got the bug. I need to get my body on roller coasters. And I'm definitely going to try to find the biggest, baddest roller coaster that I can. And let's see how it goes. So I'm excited about that. And not only that, I'm thinking about getting an annual pass to Magic Mountain so that I can go to Hurricane Harbor this summer, the spring, summer, and maybe even fall. I'd like to go to that water park because I love to swim and I love water parks, and I'm just totally into going to water parks. And what's great is that Hurricane Harbor is only 2 hours away. Can you believe it? only 2 hours away. So it's super close, especially for such a large water park as that. And in fact, I was a little disappointed that the water park didn't appear to be open now in December. It makes total sense. Who wants to open a water park in December? They probably don't get a lot of business anyway. But I'm really hopeful that that water park will open up, say, in March. I think I'm willing to wait a good 90 days before I don't know, maybe it's April or May before that water park will open up. We'll see. But I hope they start opening it up sooner, because I want to start flying around on my inner tube at the water park, that's for sure. And Em, I just want to say that you are definitely invited. Every time I go to any of these amusement parks, you are definitely invited to attend every one. And in fact, if you have any intention or inclination to going to a water park, or going to do roller coasters, or just going to any of these amusement parks at all, I am totally 100% inviting you to come along with me anytime you want. Anytime. The more the merrier. And let's bring your friends too. Let's bring your parents. Let's bring your friends. Let's make it a party. I would definitely be up for that. That's for sure. So anyway, I might as well get into some other segments. Now I've got the Oxford Companion to Philosophy here, and I figured one subject we could go through is the Golden Rule. I thought that might be fun. I wonder what a philosophical perspective of the Golden Rule might be. And I'm curious what this encyclopedic reference has to say about the Golden Rule. And so I'll just start reading it right off. It says, the Golden Rule. This rule designates a guide to conduct thought fundamental in moral, major religious and moral traditions. It has been formulated either positively as an injunction to do unto others as you would have them do unto you, Matthew 7:12, or negatively, urging that you not do to others what you would not wish them to do to you, as in the sayings of Confucius or Hillel. The rule's all-encompassing simplicity has invited countless trivializing counterexamples. Should a devotee of fried mosquitoes serve them as a special delicacy to their guests, or masochists inflict their favorite torments on unsuspecting acquaintances? Such questions, however, miss the point of the rule. It was never intended as a guide to practical choice, independently of all other principles of conduct. It has nothing to say about specific choices, nor does it endorse particular moral principles, virtues, or ideals. Whoa, wow, that's pretty sweeping. The Golden Rule concerns rather a perspective thought necessary to the exercise of even the most rudimentary morality, that of trying to put oneself in the place of those affected by one's actions. So to consider the natural tendency to moral myopia, or so as to counter the natural tendency to moral myopia. It enjoins listeners to treat others with the understanding and respect they would themselves wish to encounter, and above all, not to inflict misfortune on others that they would abhor to have inflicted upon themselves. Precisely because the Golden Rule has so long been thought fundamental, many moral philosophers have compared it to their own principles concerning moral choice and conduct. Thus, Immanuel Kant famously dismissed the rule as trivial and too limited to be universal law, in a footnote to his Foundations of the Metaphysics of Morals, whereas John Stuart Mill claimed it in Utilitarianism, that the Golden Rule of Jesus of Nazareth, we read the complete spirit of the we read the complete spirit of the ethics of utility. Huh, that is very interesting. The complete spirit of the ethics of utility. Huh, well, that's an interesting point in and of itself. Honestly, I wouldn't necessarily think that the golden rule represents the complete spirit of the ethics of utility. Yeah, I don't necessarily see it that way. That just illuminates for me an interest in John Stuart Mill and his theory of utilitarianism, and how, as he developed it, I wonder what I might be missing. There must be a part of that story that I'm missing. Maybe it's sort of an enlightened utility, where we're talking about utility not for the person, for the decision maker themselves, but a utility for others as well. Sort of a long-term utility, maybe even a long-term joint utility with that combines your interests and others. That's a possibility. So, all right. Well, with that, let's move on to the question and answer period. Why not? So you might recall that this question and answer period is just a little segment that I use to help get you oriented into what's on my mind and what my experience is and what my history is. And I basically am taking these questions. I've got a book, a Kindle ebook that's got 1,000 questions. And I'm basically reading through all the questions and answering those questions to the best of my ability. And, it's essentially giving you, Emily, a chance to get to know me a little bit better. Maybe it gives you a chance to, sort of tap into what Miguel is and who he is. And maybe also, it'll also give your children an opportunity to know who their grandfather is. And then their children to know who their great-grandfather is, and so on. So, okay. So the next question that's on the list is question number 50. When talking to someone while standing, are your arms usually at your sides, in your pockets, crossed in front of you, or gesturing descriptively? Demonstrate your answer. So when I talk to someone, I am most frequently gesturing. I would guess that every phrase or sentence gets its own gesture. And this is me doing it right now. I am demonstrating how I talk to other people. I make gestures as I speak. And this is just normal. It's what I do all day, every day. Now, I don't always gesture. Sometimes I don't. Sometimes it's not necessary. I think I gesture for emphasis. Sometimes I gesture to clarify an idea that I might have. Sometimes I'm just conducting myself in the way that I speak. It gives my hands something to do, when otherwise they might not have anything to do, and they might just be flopped by my sides. And that also is, I'm sure, quite common. My guess is that maybe 50% of the time, my hands are pretty much flopped by the side of my body. But a good 50% of the time, I am gesturing emphatically, trying to make points visually in space using my gestures. Hopefully I'm clarifying some of my ideas as I do it. Yeah, so that's how I was taught to speak, and that's how I speak today. Now, you might not see me gesturing that much in these video productions, but it's possible I do. One of the issues is that the camera is so close that I've got to find ways to gesture near my face. And gesturing near my face is not necessarily a thing that I do naturally. I'll gesture in front of my chest. Now, here I am gesturing in front of my chest. and lower than my chest. And one thing you're noticing is that you're not seeing anything move around, and that is because of the position of the camera. If you were a person with normal levels of peripheral vision, you would be seeing my gestures. But because you're a camera, well, you don't see my gestures that much. So believe it or not, I'm doing gesturing almost all the time. And you're just not seeing the gestures as they take place because the screen field of vision is just not that big. Now, if I push that camera further back, you'd be able to see all the gestures. The problem with that, though, is that I kind of want my face to fill the screen so that when you're watching, you're seeing something. And you're also seeing my expressions, my emotional expressions, my habitual expressions, because that communicates lots of information, right? It's nonverbal information that's being communicated, and that's important to me. And there are limits too. There are limits to the resolution that this camera can pick up, and I think it would be a disservice to have the camera further back. And I think, Emily, you deserve to have some kind of, interaction with me, at least on the nonverbal level. And, that's part of the reason why I bring the camera so up close. So you can see who you're talking to. And so I can, respond to my own image and to, so I can respond to my own image. All right. So let's see what the next question is. That was a pretty good question. I really enjoyed it. Question number 51. What magazines do you subscribe to and why? And how many of those do you actually read or look through? Do you throw any of them away unread? So I do have one magazine subscription that I pay attention to, and that is my subscription to Psychology Today. And that's naturally true because I have an interest in psychology. But one thing I've been noticing lately, I have an annual, sort of a 1-year subscription to Psychology Today. And what I've been noticing is that for the past two magazines, I've not been reading them that much. Now, I've been really busy the last 2 months doing all kinds of stuff. I mean, just even last month, I've been finishing up my final exam studying. So I just didn't have the time to read that Psychology Today magazine. Now that I'm on break, I'm on winter break between semesters, I've got extra time to spend. In fact, the evenings after work would be a perfect opportunity for me to start deep diving into that magazine. I want to give that magazine the attention it deserves. I want to give the subject matter the attention it deserves. And when I'm really busy, it's not one of the first things I think about. It's not highest on my priority list. High things on my priority list are things like going to the gym, which is very high. Maybe reading a book. Learning new skills, getting an education, going to school, going to work, and then also connecting with other people, connecting with my circle of friends and my circle of relatives. So, yeah, sometimes the magazine subscription gets deprioritized. In a way, that's a good problem to have, right? I'm not scratching my head wondering what to do next. I've got a lot of ideas about what to do. There's always something to do. And, it's usually at hand. And I make it happen, And so the magazine subscription kind of falls by the wayside sometimes. I kind of regret that. But also, I'm pretty good at skimming articles that I want to read in a magazine and taking time out to read those articles if they intrigue me. And so I guess I am relying on that skill. All right. Nice. Okay. What's the next question? Question number 52. Have you ever purchased anything from a telemarketer? If so, what was it? If not, why didn't you? Okay. I don't think I've ever purchased anything from a telemarketer. And the reason is because I really want to have time to make good decisions. And quite often, when I want to make an informed, intelligent decision, for me, that takes time. That whole practice takes time. And it's not something that I'd be on the phone with a person with instantaneously saying yes to something, unless I had sort of preconceived, sort of pre-thought out my strategy relating to whatever topic that the telemarketer is talking about. Yeah. So, yeah, telemarketers don't necessarily influence me strongly. I just don't allow myself to be influenced by them. Because, well, partly because I used to be a telemarketer, and it makes it a little bit easier for me, I think, to say no. Because I know I got said no to a lot when I was a telemarketer. So I know how it feels, and I know how it feels when it happens hundreds of times a day. That's right, rejection hundreds of times a day. And you know what? I respect that. People value their time. They value their energy. Nowadays, especially with so many draws on people's attention, be it books or arcade games, television, movies, computer, internet, smartphones. Let me tell you, there are a lot of draws on people's energy right now, their mental and emotional energy, and it's not easy to get people to take surveys anyway, or even to have them stick around long enough to pay attention to your offer when you describe it to them. And so, it's just a normal way of things. All right, next question. Okay, so I don't think I think I might not have fully answered that last question. They said, if not, why didn't you? So why don't I ever buy things from a telemarketer? Well, there are a lot of reasons why. I think the number one reason, and that's the reason I addressed earlier, was that quite often these phone calls come unplanned, right? So there was no sort of pre-thought going into the conversation. And I like to use my analytical skills to solve problems, and that takes time. And when I'm pressed to make a decision, I'm more prone to delay that decision until I get some time to think about the subject. I respect what I have to say. And I want to put my future self in good stead. And so what that means is that it's up to me to do my due diligence and do the research I need to do before I make a purchase. That's right. I don't want to spend money unnecessarily if I don't have to. And, part of my strategy is not to buy anything from telemarketers, at least at first, because, there will always be an opportunity when you can buy at a later date. Mm-hmm. And, often that makes more sense anyway. And, yeah. So I wonder how you're doing, girl. What is your response to getting all these answers from this Q&A session? I wonder how you're feeling and what's going through your mind, and whether you think that what I'm saying makes sense to you. I wonder if you've had experiences similar to mine. Maybe you have an outlook similar to mine. I'd be interested in knowing what it is, how you react and how you respond to the things that I say. All right, what's the next question? Question number 53. How frequently do you purchase lottery tickets or mail-in sweepstakes registrations? Have you ever won anything from them? Okay, I've never won anything from like, what is it? Bookseller sweepstakes or something like that. American sweepstakes. I'm not quite sure. I think maybe one time I did send in some information. Like I sent in some kind of application for to be entered or registered into the sweepstakes, but I didn't pursue it after that. I guess nothing happened. So, how frequently do I purchase lottery tickets? The answer is pretty much never. That's just what the answer is. Now, I have purchased lottery tickets before. Maybe I did it as part of a group one time many years ago. Um, I've never purchased lottery tickets from those vending machines that are in convenience stores all around California. Although I've been tempted at times because I hear about those jackpot numbers, $56 million, one half $1 billion. You know, you can't win if you never enter. And hey, I recognize that too. You can't lose either. Yeah. And the odds against winning are so astronomically against your favor anyway. One thing that I sometimes have purchased a lottery ticket to have been the Santa Barbara house lottery. In fact, I even forget what it's called. Some kind of where the main prize is a house in Santa Barbara. Now that makes sense. And what's also nice about that drawing is that they limit the total number of applicants. So um, there's a fixed statistic that describes the probability of you winning, and I like that. So it's kind of a local lottery, and it doesn't happen all the time. I think it just happens once a year, and so I will occasionally uh, purchase a ticket for that. Now, have I done it in the last 2 or 3 years? No, I haven't. Have I thought about doing it? Yes. I just haven't done it. Have I done it before? And yeah, I've done it once or twice before. I don't know. I think it makes sense. I think there's a legit argument to be made about probabilities and this local lottery. But let me tell you, buying lottery tickets is not something that I do often. It's not something that's on my mind. For me, I recognize that the source of wealth is generally internal, right? The source of wealth has to do with what is going on in your mind at any time. Your happiness, your ability to flourish is so dependent on your outlook, on your attitude, that it's sort of silly to ignore it, especially when cash is hard to come by. There are other aspects too about lotteries. In a lottery, I think there's this unstated assumption that it's about you sort of taking control of your external reality. And one thing I know is that it's not easy to take control of your external realities along any subject area. There's so many factors, so many elements. Um, and I think for some, buying a lottery ticket might be sort of like an indicator about how they're trying to get certainty in the world and take control of the things around the world. It's just that I think I just have a dim view about how successful I might be when I buy a lottery ticket. And so that's probably the primary reason. All right. What's the next question? All right. Question number 54. What's the best New Year's resolution you've ever made? Oh, man. Well, I think this is a repeat of a question or a related question that was asked a little bit ago. And it has to do with New Year's resolutions. And here's the thing, I do not necessarily make New Year's resolutions. For me, the kind of improvement that I make in my daily life is something that occurs on a microscopic scale. These are small habits that I make in order to make improvements in my life. And these improvements happen only after a long period of time has passed. Like if I wanted to lose weight, maybe I would cut my calorie intake by 50 calories a day, something like that. Notice how that, for me, it's that small kind of step that one takes to achieve a goal that is most important. It's not necessarily the goal itself, establishing what that goal is, although that is important. The way I tend to move toward goal attainment has more to do with the process, making changes to the process, helping make sure that I am adjusting as smartly as I can in my external environment. And the way I do that is through habitual action. That's the tool that I use. And so when I come up with my, say, an annual goal, I focus less on the final goal and I focus more on the daily action. And believe it or not, it's not necessarily that is a focus that doesn't necessarily cohere very well with coming up with annual goals. I have a sense that when you come up with an annual goal, you basically are developing a conception about what you want your future to be. And that's valuable and important. And it might be something I ought to be doing more of. But really, what I'm mostly interested in are these small steps that I take every day and ensuring that they get done every day. And that through the process of sort of making those incremental changes, then the goals will be accomplished by themselves, and I won't have to think about it that much. One thing I recognize too about goals, particularly when you do planning for them or when you think about them, I guess my thought is that it's a little bit demotivating. Unless that goal really inspires a lot of energy in you. Having a goal, a nice big goal, can be a little bit intimidating for a lot of people. And it's great to get that clarification, that clarity in your vision, but it also can be a little bit disappointing because you might fall into the trap of continuously comparing yourself to how you are now to how you want to be in the future. And when you do that, there's like this gap that inevitably forms. And then there are feelings of unmet needs that relate to sadness or anger, some kind of emotional pain. And because it's so easy to drop down into emotional pain when you make a big goal, say an annual goal, that I think it might have the opposite effect sometimes of being demotivating, taking your motivation away. I like the small steps approach because with small steps, I can change processes. And if I could keep up these processes for years and years and years at a time, I can make so much good progress on my goal that I don't even have to think about the goal. I like to focus mostly on what I can do today. That for me empowers me, right? It empowers my behavior. It empowers my thought process. I feel like I'm in control. And quite often, good habits, and really I'm just talking about good daily habits. These good daily habits if practiced well, I would guess a small number of them um, may be amenable to, say, a very specific overarching annual goal. For me, it's about behaving in ways that is the most mature, responsible, happiness producing as possible, and then getting proud and excited about the small steps I make. Yeah. I mean, if I can find a way to be even 1% happier today, and then 1% happier tomorrow, and then 1% happier the next day, that is something that I can stick my teeth into. I can sink my teeth into. Whereas if I have this big goal that I won't be accomplishing for a whole year, and I continuously spend time thinking about it, I have a feeling that has the potential to be a problem when it comes to my internal motivation. Okay, so what's my next question? Well, I don't think I even answered that question. What's the best New Year's resolution you've ever made? Well, I think maybe losing weight. I was pretty successful doing that, and I'm not sure if it was a New Year's resolution to do that or not. It probably wasn't, but I got it done. I got that accomplished. And so, because I used to weigh like 205 pounds, maybe it was 210 pounds at my heaviest, and that was a lot of weight to take off. I took off a good 60 pounds of fat, and like I said, it probably wasn't a New Year's goal. It's just a goal that I always have, at least that I've had for a long, long time. I probably, at the time when I made that, on some level, I'm always looking for better. And I know that approach could has the potential to make someone more sad or angry or upset than happy. And so I am kind of trying to transition away from that kind of thinking. Goals are important. It's great, but I think spending a lot of time on goal achievement can work backwards for you and sort of upset your chances of getting what you want. Mm-hmm. All right, let's see what the next question is. Question number 55. When making an entrance into a social gathering, do you make your presence known so everyone notices you, slip in and look for someone you know, or sneak in as quietly as possible and find a safe spot to hide? Why? Okay, so I am an extrovert, and I do the second one. That is, I slip in and look for someone I know. That's pretty much the first thing I do. And if I can spot someone, I go talk to them immediately. Now, sometimes I don't know a person very well, and I will just, if their face even looks somewhat familiar, I'll go talk to them. And then I guess also one thing I'll do is that if someone just looks friendly from a distance, I might go over to them and say hi. So I guess, it sort of depends on context, but I think it really boils down to me just walking into a room and then deciding who I want to speak to and then walking to that person. Here's the thing about social intelligence. Quite often it just boils down to doing something, doing anything. And then also sticking around. There's some resilience. If a silent pause develops, step through that pause through waiting and do it in a courageous way. And also, if you're not getting the feedback that you want, there is, as an extrovert, my advice is just to keep plugging away. I think a big problem with our society today is that we expect relationships to be too easy and to basically be handed to us. That is not the case. Relationships are a challenge. It's hard. They take work to maintain, and they take energy, both emotional, physical energy. And I think basically people have been, sort of spoiled by how quick and easy it appears that relationships can be through, say, Facebook, the relationships we have through Facebook and email. It's not that easy. You know, being face to face with someone, having deep conversations, having challenging conversations, that is a challenge on a level that is not the norm today. Now, here's the thing. I've spent a lot of time focusing on relationships and improving relationships. And even though I've devoted considerable chunks of time to doing that, I still have trouble ensuring that it happens. Relationships are that complex that even relative experts in the field of relationships can struggle and do poorly and lose. Yep. It's just part of the game. I think one thing that makes extroverts is that they've got a thicker skin sometimes than most, perhaps. That's not to say that they're sensitive enough not to notice, because I think they do notice. I have a feeling that they notice exquisitely when things are off. And an extrovert goes out and makes new approaches anyway, all the time. So, it's sort of this idea of extroverts being optimistic or hopeful about how the situation will end up. I think it arises from all the positive feedback that people get, that I get from people. And, this positive feedback fuels a very deep and passionate inner motivation to just get out there and give it a try, even if it fails utterly. And if it fails, then I use gentleness to make sure to sort of soften the blow. I do a little self-empathy. After a couple minutes or a couple hours, I'm back on the trail again. Now, that's not the case with everything. Sometimes a pause is helpful, and it can be a really edifying experience, a learning experience to take a break. But one thing about extroverts is that they tend to throw themselves back into the ring again, throw themselves back into the arena. So, Emily, I'm going to wrap things up a little bit here. I just want to say how much I appreciate the interactions we've been having. We had a nice text message exchange when I went to Universal Studios, and I really appreciate that respectful and enjoyable relating that we were both able to enjoy that day and in our conversation. I just want to say how much I respect you and honor you, and I'm so glad that you're there for me, and I hope that you know that I am there for you. And if there's any way that I can support you, support your needs, your interests, your wishes, your desires. I know Christmas is coming up, and I've prepared some Christmas presents for you. And I've got more Christmas presents to prepare. Looking forward to offering those to you. Any insight into the things that you desire or wish for or dream of would be helpful, because that will help me expend energy in ways that you will find delightful and terrific. And that's kind of the effect I'm going for. So, again, I hope you have a fantastic day today, and I'll be contacting you probably via letter in the future and text messages. I'll certainly let you know when I show up at Six Flags Magic Mountain, and we can track each other in those ways. So, again, I love you. And I love you just the way you are. And again, I hope you have a terrific day. Peace.